Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Truth Be Told Minuteman Report. This is Robert Hensley, your Truth Be Told Minuteman, coming to you live from an undisclosed location somewhere in North America, what I prefer to call the bunker. Hope everyone is having a great week or had a great weekend. Not sure when you're going to hear this. We're having some technical difficulties and having a hard time getting stuff up online in a timely manner here. So might be a few days before you guys get this, but at least you'll a few days before you'll get it on YouTube. It's going to go out on to most of our podcast partners as planned, Mondays 3 p.m. So talking a little bit today about and it's a topic I try to avoid because I know that it's divisive and a lot of opinions, and but it's something I thought this past week we watched McCarthy try to become the Speaker of the House, and it took a record-breaking 15 votes to get there. And over the weekend I was talking to a friend of mine, a group of friends I should say, and there was a gentleman who's, to put it politely, he's more mature than a lot of the people who were at this gathering. And he was saying that, politics today, contemporary politics, are very different from the politics that he remembers his grandparents and his parents talking about, and things have changed even just for himself as an adult so much. And I wondered what he had meant by that. And so he was speaking specifically about the idea of, people talk a lot about the separation of church and state, and people talking so much about God and religion in politics and in their policy making, and how, when he was younger and in school, and I remember in civics class learning that was supposed to be something that was set aside. We weren't supposed to have, there wasn't supposed to be that connection between religion and policy. And so I decided to start looking into this. and this is what I came up with. In the world, right now in 2023, and this is as of this report that I'm going by is as of 2022. There are 4,200 religions, churches, denominations, religious bodies, and faith groups around the world. 4,200. Okay. Within that, there are over 18,000 deities being worshipped around the world. 18,000. Right? So, based on a Pew Research poll from 2021, the United States, which, we are falsely called a Christian nation because we're not comprised solely of just Christians. But what they found was that 26% of all U.S. residents report no religious affiliation. That's either that they don't have a religious affiliation, or they choose not to kind of make that matter of public record. But that's an increase of 29% over previous reports. So more people in the United States now are choosing not to disclose their religious affiliation. And that means that in the realm of Christians in this country, the number dropped significantly to 63% of people. Like, not much more than half the people in this country are claiming to be Christian, meaning that 37% of the country, through not answering or not reporting their affiliation, kind of means that they're either not Christian or are not practicing a particular religion. But among the Christians, that 63%, 40% claim to be Protestant or of a Protestant denomination. 20% are Catholic, and 2% list as other. And here's what I found really, really interesting, right? Is that, yes, technically, and again, it's a very narrow margin, Christianity is the majority in this country. But that's still a lot of people who are non-Christian. So if you're thinking about our policymakers and the people in government who are, gaining votes because they thanked God in a speech or because their religious beliefs align with somebody else's, that's a lot of people to kind of cut out of policy or being protected by policies because they don't believe the same thing that you do. Anyway, but here's what I found really, really interesting. There was a study done in 2011 that found that of the people polled who believe in God, that there are actually 4 different gods that are worshipped among or within the Christian faith, right? So, and those 4 gods are one God, 4 versions of the same God, I should say. One is the authoritarian God. 31% of people believe in an authoritarian God. 23% believe in a benevolent God. 16% of people believe in a critical God, and 24% of people who are within the Christian faith believe in a distant God. And 6% of the people that were spoken to in that poll were just straight up atheists, right? Did not believe in a God. So I started thinking more about what the gentleman had said over the weekend as far as how politics had changed and that this kind of link between religion and policy and where that had kind of come from. And so experts say that although religion and policy has kind of always kind of been linked together in some way, it really didn't become so incredibly connected until the 1980s. They claim that in 1981, something called God strategy entered our political system with Ronald Reagan, and that has not gone away. And that God strategy actually, it has effectively kind of thwarted the Constitution's prohibition of religious testing for public office. So basically the Constitution says that you can't test someone about religious knowledge or their faith or practices to make them eligible for public office. However, God strategy, adding into the campaign and making it about, the fact that you're not going to be able to run, you're not going to be able to win if you don't mention God or you don't mention your religious beliefs in your campaign. That's God strategy. And that is what has kind of become the de facto kind of religious testing, right? Like we know that you can't really stand on the wings and not talk about God or not mention your religious beliefs because people just won't kind of follow you, and you can't really talk against other people's beliefs because then you're going to lose those votes. So this thing called God strategy has kind of taken over. But just so that we know, just so that everyone is aware. So, God strategy again started, kind of hit us in the 1980s, but we're looking at other changes, other places where religion came to play in politics or just in our government. Did you know that the Pledge of Allegiance was written in 1892 to commemorate the 400th anniversary of Columbus's voyage to the Americas? Yeah, it was printed in a children's magazine, actually. And then it kind of went viral, shall we say. And then in 1954, Under God was added by Congress. At the time, we were at the height of the Cold War, and the politicians believed that Under God would kind of bolster patriotic feelings and show that we were a spiritual, a nation with a spiritual connectedness, unlike the communist Russians. I'm not exactly sure how that plays in, but that's what I read. And then, the first dollar bill was printed in 1862 and featured the portrait of the Secretary of the Treasury at the time. George Washington didn't make the final cut to the $100 or to the dollar bill until 1869. So 7 years later, he was added to the bill. But it was in 1957 that "In God We Trust" was added to money. So a lot of stuff in our country has been influenced by our religious beliefs and our religious practices. I think, my personal opinion is I think that there should be a separation of church and state. Rationally, if a country is not 100% one thing, then we have to create policies and laws that govern or protect everyone, not just the, 63% of Americans who claim to be Christian. But this gives, a lot of credence to, people roll their eyes and, shake off the idea of conspiracy theories. But, there's a lot of stuff that just kind of stacks up and you wonder, how did something gain credence? This is how. This is how little by little things change, and it leaves enough to, I don't want to say the imagination, but it leaves just enough to those people who have a reasonable doubt to start talking about other changes and other things that our country might be doing against its own people. Right? So now if you're watching this on YouTube, when it posts to YouTube, you're going to see on your screen a couple of pie charts and some bar charts here, kind of outlining or showing a visual representation of those percentages that I gave you. And yes, I want a pat on the back because I had to figure out how to make a pie chart this morning. But yes, again, it's a very I don't want to say it's an important topic. I think that more thought does need to be given to where we are headed as a nation and how we have such a small group of people fighting really, really hard to basically govern a country for a very small group of people, and how that really kind of leaves everybody else in the lurch. I think that is probably something that we all need to think about and discuss and talk more about. I think that it's a conversation that really requires a lot more attention than maybe it's been given in the real world, right? There are a lot of people shouting from their podcasts, talking from their soapboxes, but it's something that needs to be become a conversation in larger arenas. At least I feel. But that's me for the day. So now, started last week, I was telling you about Spell of the Week, a new segment here on the Minuteman Report. And so we have a new Spell of the Week. Again, Daniel Morris was kind enough to give me a collection of one-word spells to present in this segment. And this week, the Spell of the Week is Univere, which is a one-word spell to shorten travel time, right? To make your commute home go faster. It is a combination of the English word universe and the French word for green, vert. It is so it's really a spell to quote-unquote green light your travel. It's for faster connection times on a train, unobstructed traffic on your way home, to make sure that all the lights are green. And again, as with any spell, it's all about intention. It's about your belief and need, and again, just intention, what it is that you want to have happen, where you want it to happen. So you should be thinking about green lights. You should think about the train coming faster. You should think about, clear roadways. You should think about anything that you need to think about, airports that are empty or planes being on time. Visualize these things as your whatever mode of travel that you're taking, so that when you have really centered and you're focused in your mind and your intention is set that you want to have a shorter travel time, then you say the words univers, right? So it's uni and vert together, univers. And that is your one word spell of the week. All right, everyone, thanks so much for listening. This has been, again, another episode of Truth Be Told Minuteman Report. I'm Robert Hensley, your Truth Be Told Minuteman, wishing you a happy, happy week. And until next time, stay true.